ranking every project from Phase 4 of the MCU. Hello there and welcome to Kin's Review. In today's video, we're ranking every project from the controversial fourth phase of the MCU and the first phase of the ongoing Multiverse saga.
We have unfinished business. We have to go back to where it all started. Lucky us. One thing's for sure. It's gonna be a hell of a reunion.
Are you ready? Hey. Is you ready? Give me the tour.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever marked the end of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is fair to say that it has been the studio's most divisive yet. Following on from the dramatic events of Phase 3 was always going to be a tough ask. The franchise had lost several of its major players, and as such, Marvel Phase 4 has been a little bit of a mixed bag. It is the first phase not to feature an Avengers movie, and at times it has felt incredibly muddled. However, given the direction the MCU is moving in, it looks as though it may only be fair to judge Phase 4 when we have seen the bigger picture. Phase 4 not only has had to showcase the fallout of the Infinity Saga and bring the narrative universe back to square one, but also build brick by brick a story that promises to be even more grand with the Multiverse Saga. Between exploring the daring world of long-form streaming series to its familiar home on the big screen, Marvel Studios has been able to build on the value of its brand and the trust of its fans to explore a wider variety of stories, characters and styles than they have ever had before, while still maintaining the blockbuster-like ability they have always had since the first Iron Man. There were 18 eligible titles for the Phase 4 rankings: WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Black Widow, Loki, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, What If, Eternals, Hawkeye, Spider-Man No Way Home, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I Am Groot, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Thor, Love and Thunder, Werewolf By Night, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Sony's Morbius and Venom Let There Be Carnage are not part of the rankings as they were not part of the official MCU stories and exist in Sony's separate Spider-Man universe, which has yet to have a Spider-Man.
Surface world.
Before we kick off our Phase 4 ranking, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to always get notified when we upload a new video. That said, we can go through every Phase 4 project from movies to shows and not forget the critically acclaimed specials, ranking them from worst to best. Crawling in to number 17, we have She-Hulk Attorney at Law. As a series, She-Hulk Attorney at Law gave itself a lot of heavy lifting to do since the very first episode. From introducing a new lead character in the easily likable Jennifer Walters, played by Tatiana Maslany, to expanding the role of Hulks in the MCU, to reintroducing characters like Tim Roth's The Abomination and Charlie Cox's Daredevil. The series sought to tread a lot of canonical ground while also remaining an audience-pleasing fusion of self-aware workplace law comedy and superhero spectacle that tackles toxic masculinity and sexism, while Tatiana and her chemistry with her wide supporting cast are what prevail as the show's greatest strengths. The series feels the most strenuous when its tonal and generic shifts often begin to clash in trying to be two different kind of shows at once, awkwardly playing off the vibes of a cheeky episodic modern sitcom with a traditionally overarching Marvel-style narrative. While each angle the series attempts are satisfying in isolation as individual episodes, as a whole, She-Hulk displays Marvel trying to have the best of both worlds and lacking the confidence in its storytelling of either of them to pull it off as a satisfying whole.
Not me. What? Just listening.
At number 17, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. Natalie Portman's Jane and Chris Hemsworth's Thor reunite in Taika Waititi's second MCU film after Thor Ragnarok. This time, viewers embark on Thor's healing journey as he tries to defeat Christian Bale's terrifying Gore, a galactic killer who seeks to kill all gods and has kidnapped Asgardian children. With the help of Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, Jane and Korg, Thor sets out on a cosmic adventure to make things right. The director's first film with Marvel is one of the best MCU installments, so naturally, we went in with high expectations. Unfortunately, to everyone's surprise, Thor: Love and Thunder ended up being one of the least liked MCU films to date. Nevertheless, it is still a good pick for those who plan to watch something funny yet touching.
This ends here and now! I'm counting on that. You can't protect.
Marvel Studios' Eternals takes the 15th place in our ranking today. Chloe Zhao's first superhero film spans thousands of years of humanity as it tells the story of a group of newcomers of sort named the Eternals, a group of 10 immortal individuals who descend upon Earth to protect humanity from the Deviants in 5000 BC. Following the events of Avengers Endgame, the supergroup reunites once more to fight the good fight. Eternals is an innovative addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Phase 4, featuring amazing visuals and a great cast, so of all the MCU properties to be given life as shows streaming on Disney+, Eternals would have greatly thrived across multiple episodes to give the characters and their story the focus that they deserved and sorely lacked in the film. The director presented something new and unique to the MCU, but the choice to present it as a feature really hurt the story and plot of the project, making it the least likable film for a lot of MCU fans.
The end of one era is the beginning of another.
Ended when you said goodbye.
Here we go.
We do not back down from a fight.
Aye, aye, Commander.
Now or never.
Zombies, great idea.
Journey to face the unknown and ponder the question. What if?
Coming in at number 14, we have What If Season 1. Marvel Studios' first foray into animation, What If seizes the opportunities presented by the newly opened multiverse to have pure and adulterated fun. Just like the title suggests, What If asks the titular question as it takes pivotal moments in the MCU and gives them a major turn of events, triggering off possible scenarios that depict what would have happened if things did not go as initially planned, such as turning the Prince of Wakanda into a galactic smuggler, the God of Thunder into an irresponsible only child, the Earth's mightiest heroes into zombies. What If is a fun watch that makes you contemplate the past and future of the cinematic universe.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
Hey!
Who needs a plan? I have a shield.
What if?
Give me the tour.
It's time.
At number 13, we have another Disney Plus show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is easily the most politically charged installment of this MCU, offering the audiences an insight into the lives of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes' post-Endgame events. Apart from being action-packed, the series introduces new important characters as it revisits old ones and cements Sam's new role as the Captain America. What makes The Falcon and the Winter Soldier a bold step for Marvel is how openly and readily it examines the issue of race and socio-political struggles, with Wilson at the center of it. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier marks a mature step in the kind of long-form stories Marvel can tell on a streaming platform.
Are you ready? Is you ready?
Okay.
You say you ready.
What are you doing?
Whole squad ready.
Are you having a staring contest?
Are you ready? Is you ready?
Just blink. Sweet Jesus. I mean, how old are you?
Gotta get that first shot up before that bullet hit me.
We have unfinished business. We have to go back to where it all started.
Lucky us.
One thing's for sure. It's gonna be a hell of a reunion.
Coming in at number 12 of our MCU Phase 4 ranking today is the controversial Black Widow. Apart from being delayed numerous times due to development troubles and the COVID-19 pandemic, a solo film for Scarlett Johansson's epitomic super spy, who was last seen sacrificing herself for the Soul Stone in Endgame, can't help but feel like a step backward to the just concluded Infinity Saga, set post-Civil War. Black Widow picks up shortly after the events of the Captain America movie as it follows Scarlett Johansson's fugitive character as she is being hunted by Secretary of State Thaddeus Ross. In this film, Natasha is forced to come to terms with the darker parts of the ledger when a threatening conspiracy with ties to her past arises. The film explored more of Romanoff's past that had been teased in previous films, introduced her surrogate spy family in the form of Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz, and set the screen ablaze with some of the most viscerally intense action scenes ever to feature the Avenger. Although not exactly an origin movie, it tackles the painful journey that Natasha and her sister Yelena were subjected to during their childhood years. Sending viewers back in time to 1995, the film helps audiences better understand these characters and their backstories. A compelling film with Marvel's boldest and most unsettling open credits to date, Black Widow scarcely provides new insight into the future of the MCU. Though Black Widow wasn't well received, it's still one of the MCU's most enthralling spy thrillers yet.
Here's what's gonna happen.
Natasha, don't slouch.
I'm not slouching.
You're going to get a back hunch.
Listen to your mother.
Oh my God, this...
Up.
All right, enough. All of you.
I didn't say anything. That's not fair.
Bring her home.
Panther.
She's such a mom.
Should we be worried?
I'll be home for Christmas. I promise.
Marvel Studios' Disney Plus show Hawkeye takes the 11th spot of our MCU Phase 4 ranking. Despite being the last original Avenger to receive a solo project, Clint Barton, played by Jeremy Renner, is by far the least fascinating character in Hawkeye, which is a shame since the plot of a retired super spy trying to enjoy his first Christmas with his family after the blip, only to get pulled into one last job, should be engaging enough for Renner to carry on his own. The series concurrently juggles introducing Kate Bishop, portrayed by Hailey Steinfeld, as the heir of the Hawkeye mantle, prospective spin-off character Echo, played by Alaqua Cox, as well as incorporating fan favorites Florence Pugh's Yelena, Wilson Fisk aka the Kingpin. Because of this lack of focus, Barton often becomes lost in a sea of fascinating characters and plotlines, much like his presence in the Avengers film. While not the main focus, Renner still delivers more than his share of standout performances, brimming with warmth and the world-weary charm. Coupled with the unmistakably fun dynamic between Renner and Steinfeld, the pacing and action across each episode flows naturally in the style of a 90s buddy cop comedy and culminates in a rise of a street-level tension that sets up a down-to-earth style of MCU crime-fighting drama. Though it's not the solo adventure fans may have expected, the show still highlights the character's strengths as a supporting player and creates a new hero worthy of the name.
The Marvel Universe is about to get a lot bigger.
There's someone at the top. He's the guy I've been worried about this whole time.
There are arrows more dangerous than that one?
It's just some Christmas.
I'm Groot.
Moving on to the top 10, we have Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special enters around Mantis and Drax's quest to find a holiday gift for Peter on Earth. With some surprising revelations and cameos throughout, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special has a refreshingly spirited change of pace among the MCU's recent entries. Decked with all the charm of director James Gunn's two Guardian films, this special's greatest strength is the allowance it grants to its characters to breathe and celebrate the familial relationship they have built together and share with one another. Particularly in the case of Mantis and Peter, while far from an essential piece of MCU lore in the greater canon, this musically hilarious special is a must-watch for fans of the Guardians to see how close they've come to know each other as family.
I'm Groot.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to always be updated on our latest uploads. You can also follow us on any social media platform at Keen's Review for daily updates.
What you seek is seeking you.
Coming in strong at number 9, we have Marvel Studios' Disney Plus show Ms. Marvel. Much in the same way Eternals should have been a streaming series, Ms. Marvel would have greatly benefited from the feature-length film format, starring Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan and a Muslim American 16-year-old Avengers fangirl. Ms. Marvel serves as an excellent addition to the treasured cinematic universe, being the highest-rated Phase 4 project on Rotten Tomatoes, according to the critics' 98% score. The show is generally a coming-of-age story of superhero fangirl Kamala Khan, who discovers her family's tragic and interdimensional roots. This compelling story is carried by genuinely heartfelt performances and honest dialogue by the cast, but pacing it over 6 episodes leaves the narrative not as concisely told as it should be if it were a film in the vein of Spider-Man Homecoming. Despite all of this, what embiggens the series is Kamala Khan herself and the relationship with her family. Iman's enthusiasm as Kamala are impossible not to be charmed by as she interacts with her family that is the most visibly believable family unit that has ever been in the MCU. Honestly, I can't wait to see this dynamic family in the Marvels this summer.
Everything's changing really fast.
If you save one life, you save the world.
I'm a superhero.
You wanna see this, darling?
Werewolf by Night.
At number 8, we have another Disney Plus special, Werewolf by Night. In what felt like a breath of fresh air and a homage to classic horror films, the Halloween special Werewolf by Night tells the intriguing story of a lycanthrope superhero played by Gael Garcia, who fights evil using the super abilities given to him thanks to a curse. The directorial debut of master film composer Michael Giacchino serves as the first of a new kind of MCU installment. This surprising feature ended up being one of the best out of all Phase 4 projects. Strikingly more violent and atmospherically foreboding than a typical Marvel fare, Werewolf by Night is a standout exploration of comic book horror with incredible cinematography and very atmospheric shots. Werewolf by Night perfectly manages to dive into less explored genre territory for Marvel.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
Werewolf by Night.
I thought I could change my name. Start a new life. But I could never escape his shadow.
Another fascinating entry to the MCU was Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which takes the 7th spot in our ranking. The first new solo hero to debut after Endgame introduces Simu Liu as Marvel's master of Kung Fu. One of Marvel Studios' greatest strengths is taking underutilized characters from over 80 years of Marvel Comics history and giving them new life in spectacularly cinematic fashion. The film follows Shang-Chi, portrayed by Simu Liu, who is forced to come back to China to confront his past and stop his highly respected father, the leader of the Ten Rings organization, from unintentionally releasing evil upon the world. The film's fight scenes veer the action of the MCU into a new direction by focusing more on martial arts choreography than on solely visual effects battles. Not to forget the film's great comedy, with Awkwafina's Katie being the highlight as a great foil to Simu. Her chemistry on screen as lifelong friends feels believable every time they share a scene. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the perfect fusion of electrifying action and light-hearted comedy that the Ant-Man films have tried so much to achieve.
You can't run from your past.
Is this what you wanted?
I have to finish this.
At number 6, we have another beautiful superhero introduction in Marvel Studios' Disney Plus show, Moon Knight. One of Marvel's best Phase 4 projects, Moon Knight was the first series to introduce a new protagonist and anti-hero. Intriguing and captivating, this twisting Disney Plus series lives by the acting of Oscar Isaac as Mark Spector, Moon Knight, also known as Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley, in a revolutionary performance of an MCU character. Moon Knight tells the story of Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, two distinct characters of a man with dissociative identity disorder that are drawn into a puzzle that involves Egyptian mythology. Through non-linear storytelling and pacing allowing both sides of Spector and Grant to be explored, Moon Knight is just as much as sympathetic and compelling dive into grief and mental health as it is a tomb-raiding adventure that spans space and time.
I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
Thank you.
Lost the contact lens.
Hope you find it.
Embrace the chaos.
You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. This doesn't seem fair.
Go, go, go!
At number 5, we have yet another Phase 4 controversial release, Marvel Studios' Doctor Strange sequel, Multiverse of Madness, probably the most comic booky film in the entire MCU so far. While it doesn't explore the vast and limitless potential of its multiversal premise, as its title may imply, there is no shortage of mind-bending Marvel madness and reality-warping cameos to appease every kind of fan. Directed by 2002's Spider-Man filmmaker Sam Raimi, the second installment of the Doctor Strange franchise features a much darker tone as it introduces viewers to America Chavez, a teen girl with a familiar face who can travel across multiverses to battle multiple threats, including other versions of Strange from different universes. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness offers a different concept that had never been explored in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and is very different from what Marvel fans were used to. With lots of special effects, this film invites viewers on a wild ride. Although some viewers argue that the plot doesn't make much sense as there are a lot of confusing stuff, questionable plot holes in between the storyline, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness still masters up a scary good time, and not to forget the unforgettable performance delivered by Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch.
You break the rules
Look out!
and become a hero.
I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone. Have I not given everything?
Coming in at number 4, we have Marvel Studios' final Phase 4 movie Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The untimely loss of Chadwick Boseman cast an immeasurable shadow of grief and doubt going into director Ryan Coogler's sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Luckily, this year's tear-jerking box office hit Black Panther Wakanda Forever was everything we could have wanted and more. Following the death of T'Challa, played by the late great Chadwick Boseman, Shuri and her family gather to celebrate his life during heart-wrenching times and join forces with their people to protect their home from intervening world powers. Wakanda Forever not only effectively carries the flame, but utilizes the loss of its king to tell Phase 4's poignant tale of the power of grief. Wakanda's princess and new protector Shuri, as portrayed by Letitia Wright, and the eagerly anticipated Sabrina Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta, demonstrate how grief can both fuel violent action and inspire compassion across scenes. Wakanda Forever honors what came before and paves way for what will come next for the Black Panther mantle, a thoughtful homage that introduces new compelling faces and reflects on love, loss, grief, and anger.
Without the Black Panther, Wakanda will burn.
I'd love to see you try.
Show them who we are.
For the future.
On the throne!
For Wakanda! The Black Panther lives!
Before going into our top 3 projects, which you can all guess by now, I would like to have one honorable mention that I was unable to rank amongst these projects. This most wholesome series of all, I Am Groot, follows our favorite talking tree as the mischievous toddler who grows up in the galaxy and sets off in a series of peculiar, extremely cute adventures with equally adorable, unusual new characters. A charming watch for people of all ages, this heartwarming series will assuredly brighten up everyone's day by providing audiences with tons of humorous short tales of the beloved guardian of the galaxy.
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great!
Thank you.
What is that?
Wait, you don't have the Avengers?
Is that a band? Are you in a band?
Hello, Peter.
Moving on to our top 3, we have Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures collaborative project Spider-Man No Way Home as our third most favorite Phase 4 release. A perfect trilogy topper and celebration of Spider-Man's 20 years in feature films, Spider-Man No Way Home is a surprisingly tender blockbuster. While chock full of universe-hopping cameos and thrilling action, No Way Home's best foot forward is its characters and how much time it's given to their relationship and differing ideologies. This ambitious superhero film follows the beloved character as he struggles to make things right after his identity was revealed and seeks help from strange that leads to disastrous results. Tom Holland shines in his finest hour as the Webhead, portraying the youthful optimism and heart of Spidey, along with the painful compromises that come with his great power. Spider-Man No Way Home is the defining cinematic moment for Marvel's most iconic hero and a giant leap for the kind of stories to be told with him in the future.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
No one bad is ever truly bad, and no one good is ever truly good.
This isn't about you.
At the second spot, we have Marvel Studios' most streamed Disney Plus show, Loki Season 1. Tom Hiddleston reprised his role as Loki in the series of the same name, and is absolutely bonkers in the best possible way. Tom Hiddleston's return as the Asgardian god of mischief served as a deeper dive into the character than any of his film appearances, while also expanding the scope of the Marvel Universe to new heights. The series introduces a universal bureaucracy and a veritable parade of Loki variants, including an alligator. Loki provides fans with an innovative storyline in which an alternate version of Loki accidentally created a new timeline after the events of Endgame. The series is Hiddlestone's finest hour as he portrays Loki with tenderness, charisma, and even vulnerability that feels like a natural progression for a character initially poised as the big bad villain. Exploring time traveling in a really interesting way, the Disney Plus series features astonishing landscapes and a magnificent soundtrack that ended up exceeding many people's expectations, reigniting an overachieving narrative after the explicitly conclusive Endgame was a difficult task. But Loki is Marvel world building at its very best and has almost immediately changed the shape of the MCU for years to come. What makes Loki a fan favorite among the current phase is how it sets up for the future of MCU in a season finale that elicits a sense of impending dread and raised stakes that match those of Infinity War's ending.
You can trust me. Loki, I've studied almost every moment of your entire life. You've literally stabbed people in the back like 50 times. Why never do it again?
Come on. What did you expect?
This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
We are an unusual couple, you know.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. It's probably just a case of the Mondays. Am I right?
Loki and WandaVision came pretty close as the best Phase 4 projects, but at the end of the day, you have to make a choice, hence coming in strong at number 1 is Marvel Studios' debut project for Phase 4, WandaVision. WandaVision kickstarted the MCU's new life as streaming exclusives on Disney+. Marvel had produced a series for television before on ABC with Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and even the short-lived Inhumans, but WandaVision was the first series to fully incorporate big-screen Avengers and large-scale production budgets for a weekly serialized event set right after the events of Endgame. The series depicts a seemingly perfect household in the style of classic sitcoms, allowing audiences to take a sneak peek into the familial life of Wanda and Vision. Stricken by insurmountable grief she has experienced, Wanda uses her powers to create a magically conjured pocket dimension for herself to live a suburban sitcom life where she is surrounded by the loved ones she lost, including her brother Pietro, played by the X-Men franchise Quicksilver, Evan Peters. Filled with intriguing twists and turns, this mind-bending series also introduced new important faces. Although worldwide viewers did not know what to expect from the show, it ended up blowing audiences' minds away. Where WandaVision succeeded was in translating the Marvel formula to a weekly format with its level of intrigue and tension across its 9-episode run. The series' greatest attribute was how it explored grief in a character who suffered so much in the films preceding it. Wanda puts herself in denial of the trauma she had experienced and fabricates an idealized reality to run away from it, at the expense of an entire town's sanity and potentially the world. WandaVision showed that the MCU's next phase will not only explore new formats, but also take a deeper dive into its secondary characters and make them full-fledged heroes of their own story.
I don't know how any of this started.
What is outside of Westfield?
That well. Is this really happening?
Yes, my love.
Are you crying?
But I'm invested.
And that's a wrap on our ranking of the Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that ran from 2020 to 2022. Which Phase 5 projects are you most hyped for, and which are you not sure about? Let us know what you think in the comment sections below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest in film and TV on Keen's Review. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.